Thank you. Cassie Smedley now, former RNC Deputy Communications Director. David Carlucci, former Democratic State Senator for New York. So, Cassie, I'm going to start with you. I mentioned Afghanistan, and then you've got the stubborn inflation, the tapping of the oil reserves over and over to historic points now. Our energy prices climbing precipitously.
Yeah. Good morning, Harris. Whether it's his age, his competency level, or his policies, you've got nearly 3 in 4 Americans who say Joe Biden should not serve another 4 years in the White House. And this is a topic that you've brought up a lot. We've talked about a lot. The American people are talking about a lot. And what are Democrats doing about it other than talking about it? Nothing. Mark my words. He will be on the ballot in 2024. And that is despite the will of the American people. That is despite what the people who are around him and the Democrat establishment know to be true about him. They're going to push him through because they're too beholden to their own power and their own special interests than the will of the American people. And the American voters need to punish the Democrat Party for doing that.
All right. I do want to go to you, David. I want to preface this by this, and I've been saying this for weeks now. This is less about age. Probably almost zero about, because we all know some octogenarians who can rock it. This is about his ability now, and it has been on full display in the last 96 hours, and it is less and less impressive every time.
You're right. It should be about his ability, and that's why he's going to be the Democratic nominee. That's why he's going to be reelected, because of what he's done. And you're right. Look, if Trump actually wins, he'll be the oldest president ever when he leaves office, if that is the case. So the age is a ridiculous argument. Of course, you can poll a generic candidate, but you can't vote for a generic candidate. So every time we look at these polls and people say, well, there should be someone else.
Actually,
we always want to do better.
That's only true for your side of the aisle, because when you poll Biden and or
Trump,
Kamala against the
GOP
group that are on the next debate stage, Biden loses to every single one of them. And to Nikki Haley outside the margin of error.
No, but when we look at,
I mean, it's not the Republicans' fault that you don't have anybody else to put up. Let me move on.
The Republicans' leading candidate by a wide margin is Donald Trump, who over 50% of Americans said they will never vote for, no matter who's running against him. So
but more
all of
say
these
they don't want Joe Biden
that are being used against Biden will come right back to hit the Republican candidate. So I think it's a very dangerous slope to go down.
And Cassie, you just said that more people don't want Biden. Isn't that what you just said?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, more people don't want Biden. And I think Donald Trump is happy to run on his policies and what he did for his 4 years in office against Joe Biden any day of the week.
Yeah, I know people are awfully thirsty for those gas prices back and that low inflation at 1.4 to 1.7. All right, let's move forward. The White House wasting no time in telling the media just how to cover the Biden impeachment inquiry. The counsel's office wrote a letter to news executives. Here's a quote from it. It's time for the media to ramp up its scrutiny of House Republicans for opening an impeachment inquiry based on lies, end quote. The press secretary facing a full court press, of course.
Baseless inquiry that the House Republicans can't even really defend themselves. Incredibly inappropriate, ridiculous attacks. I'm going to leave that to the White House counsel from my colleague who sent that memo. Just laid out really kind of specifically as to how we see this process has moved forward, how there is no evidence.
More than half of voters told CNN they believe the president was involved and he lied. You can't have a response to that, Kareem?
Oh, critics were ready. Miranda Devine writes, the media's covert protection of the scandal-plagued Bidens comes to light, yet they still push innocence. Jonathan Turley, legal guru, calls the White House letter marching orders. He writes, what's most disturbing is that the White House shows no concern in making such an open pitch. The fact that this comes from the White House counsel's office is particularly chilling. This is not the press office, but the counsel for the president calling on media to form a unified front against the Republicans and the impeachment inquiry. Well, that's exactly the point. That's exactly what jumps out at you. You mean you have attorneys trying to shut down the media? Cassie.
No one's shutting down the media. No one's shutting. They're giving context to this crazy situation. You have McCarthy, who first said he would go forward if he got the entire House to go along with it. Now he realizes that's not possible.
I called
So
on
he's
Cassie's
saying,
name, so as soon as you're done, we'll go back to her.
What I was getting at is that the White House is not demanding. They're giving some clarification to this crazy situation. This
you know what? That's child's play right there. You get a letter from an attorney from the White House counsel, and you don't think it's serious? You must be the only one on the planet who would show that to every friend and another attorney that you have.
But it's outlining
Cassie, please take it away.
That's the stuff you hear about. That's the stuff you hear about in countries run by dictatorships, not where we have a free press. And let me tell you, Harris, I've worked in communications in Washington, D.C. for almost 15 years, including 10 of them on Capitol Hill. We always joke the easiest job in Washington is a Democrat press staffer because they expect that the coverage will be positive, and I've had reporters admit that to me as well. So they don't need to put out these letters in writing. In fact, you just expect that they're all friends behind the scenes. But the fact that they are, and as Jonathan Turley pointed out, from the counsel's office, not even the press office, that is incredibly concerning. Every reporter should be stubbornly asking these questions of this administration. And the administration should be happy to answer them.
And they want to point that out. They want to point that out, that this is just a show. They've already done investigations. They have thousands of pages of documents. And if they were unbiased and serious about this, they'd have the same questions for Trump and his family.
Look, I do want to point out that what the Republicans have done that is so different and so much more professional and expected of them is something Nancy Pelosi never did. She never went through all of the levels to get through impeachment inquiry. She went straight to a vote on impeachment against Trump.
Because she had all the evidence.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We don't have
you
evidence
seen
here.
the trove against Biden? But look, we don't have time for this right now. Most importantly, the White House doesn't have confidence in the liberal media, so the White House counsel begs them in a letter to take the order to back the president.
There's clarity here. They want it to be clear.
Clarity from the legal department.
Republicans say
Good
this,
to see you
Democrats
both.
say that. That's one thing.
Thanks,
but
Harris.
they want to be clear. Look, there's been investigations.
David, we're leaving.
There's been documents
Thank you.
filed.
New data